Okay, number 4, power play setup, a chopping market. All right, so as you've seen, each one of these different setups is very different from the others, and each one focuses on a different type of market condition. So this one here, number 4, is for chopping markets. It's in no way for range bound markets, it's in no way for trending markets. For chopping markets. Okay, so we're looking for a breakout when the market has lapsed into tight chop or coil chop, with VAD A telling us when it's going to break out. Now, what do you mean by tight chop? Well, right here, tight chop means no more than 3 bars in one direction before it switches direction. Okay, like for example, right here you see 2 bars down and 1 bar up and 2 bars down and 3 bars up. Okay, it's kind of just up down little wavy, right? So we define tight chop as no more than 3 bars in one direction before it goes another direction. Coil chop means each successive bar closing in the opposite direction. For example, 1 bar closes up, the next one closes down, the next bar closes up. Okay, next bar closes down. As part of this course, you've all seen the chop video that really gets into explaining some chop. Okay, and in that video, I talk about all kinds of chop. I talk about coil chop, tight chop, bigger range chops. Like I talk about all kind of different chop in general. Okay, and if you go into the C's training course, all right, again, power play is just part of and just one of the many trade setups in the C's course and the C's system. And there are some training videos in there about breakouts of chop trades that deal, with a little more of the wider chop, okay, and more bigger range kind of chop, all right, that we've talked about in there. For example, I think there's some in that chop video, maybe this isn't the best example, but like right here, I mean, the market's, that's not really choppy, right? But it's staying in between this level, okay? And, we could go in and draw a chop box, here to here kind of thing. And, when it breaks out, whoops, let's say we were looking at overall longer chop and we kind of just drew a box in there because the market had been ranging in here for a little bit. We're looking for this type of breakout move. Okay, and you can watch some of the C's breakout of chop trade videos for that. All right, because that technically is a chop range and a chop zone, and you see a nice little breakout there, right? And you can go back and you can see that kind of stuff all over. And there's plenty of trading opportunities with that. But for the power play setups, okay, again, if we're looking for a power move or a big move, all right, we're looking for a little bit tighter chop. Okay, we're not focusing on the wider range chop. We're focusing mainly for it to be a power play, one of these 4 setups. Again, we're looking at coil chop and tight chop. Okay, so to be a valid breakout power play, a cluster must appear on the bar before the chop started, or a bar somewhere in the chop, or a bar that breaks out of the chop. Okay, so we talk about how clusters need to be within a few bars before the setup. Well, with this, it has to be the bar before the chop started, a bar within the chop, or the breakout. All right, when the breakout does happen, VAD A will be increasing gradually and will exceed the previous VAD of that same direction at the breakout point. I'll show you what that means. Now, if the first VAD bar of the direction change is a tall VAD bar, this often indicates the price going in that direction will not last long. So we call a burnout bar. It will burn out quickly. All right, that's why we call it a burnout VAD bar. And I'll show you a little more what that is. Okay. Now, the power play breakout will almost always be after a fake breakout. Okay, which means in this tight or coil chop, we're looking for the breakout of that chop, and we can almost always count on there to be a fake breakout before the real breakout. All right, and normally that breakout will be where the VAD has smaller volume, but the price action actually broke through the chop box slightly, or one bar suddenly has crazy big VAD and breaks out of the bar just to burn out shortly, okay, after it broke out of the box. So the entry for a power play going long is 1 to 3 ticks above the high of the chop box, or if you have a major level that's just a few ticks away from the chop box, place your entry on the other side of that level, and the stop is about 20 ticks below the entry. For a breakout going short, the entry is 1 to 3 ticks below the chop box, or again, if your major level is there, place it on the other side of the level, and your stop is about 20. So what does all that mean? Well, let's take a peek here. Let's just go ahead and open up this screenshot a little wider. So what do we have right here? Who can tell me, is this coil chop or tight chop? We have down close bar, up close bar, down close bar, up close bar. That's what we call coil chop, right? Okay, Lori and I kind of came up with that. You ever seen the I think I covered this in the chop video. You ever seen the nature videos of the snake crawling through the desert, just going back and forth, right? Winding back and forth, like the market winding back and forth. But then what happens when that rattlesnake coils up tight? He's on the defensive, right? He might what? Strike. And that's what we're looking for when we see that coil chop real tight. It's getting tight and ready to explode. So we see what? Coil chop. Okay. We have a cluster right here within the chop box. We're right here close to the 1.5 deviation level. We've got that coil chop. All right. And then what happens here? This bar tries to close. This bar closes down, and then this bar closes up, and then this bar closes down, and this one closes up, right? It's kind of going back and forth in here, right? And you see right here, this bar closed down with a lot of VAD volume. This one closed up with just a little bit of VAD. This one came down with some lower VAD, and this one came up, and then this one's going up. And then what do we see? We see all the workings there, right? We've got a cluster, we've got a level, we've got tight chop, and then what happens on the VAD here? So we've got VAD, and then VAD building, and then VAD building, and VAD building. We like to see VAD building, right? We don't always like to see like a big shootout of VAD on just 1 or 2 bars, because that's just kind of a little burst that's going to come back against us. We like to see VAD slowly building, okay? And then as it breaks the chop box area, not only has VAD built, but on this bar right here where it broke the chop box, VAD is exceeding the previous VAD in that direction. You see that? So it's kind of a twofold situation we want here with VAD. We want, when it breaks out, we want the VAD volume in that direction, which is long, up in this case. We want that VAD volume to exceed the last VAD volume in the chop box of an up close bar. You see that? So we want it to be exceeding as it breaks out of the chop box, and we also want to see that it's building. All right, does that make sense? And so we're putting our order 1 to 3 ticks above that with a stop 20 ticks below that, and we're riding it up. Okay, now once again, let's say that we did not have a cluster in here, but everything else lined up, all of our other rules were met. We could still take that trade if we choose to, okay, but we're only expecting a little bit of a scalp out of it. So we're going to move our stop up really quick. When we get up to about 10 ticks of profit, we're going to move it up and protect those 10 ticks and lock it in, right? Because for it to be a power play, the power aspect of it is coming from that cluster. And that's when we could, get a big move up and ride it way up. All right? So that is an example there of a coil chop setup. All right? Now, sometimes, okay, well, all right, so let's just look at this real quick. But sometimes order prints can be used as a backup if VAD is unclear. All right, sometimes you'll have a coil or tight chop area and VAD's a little unclear. Like you see it starting to break out, you feel like it's breaking out. VAD is not 100% clear. VAD, like let's say VAD was building like we want it to build, but VAD wasn't quite exceeding as the price broke out. Order prints can provide an extra confirmation. What do I mean by that? Let's take a look here. Okay, so we can see over here that we're in chop, right? We're definitely in some tight chop. We don't have more than 3 bars in one direction. Now I want you to see something that happened here. So we've got this chop box here, right? Look at this bar right here. Do you see how it started to break out of the chop box? You see that, where that bar kind of pushed down? You see it? If you didn't have VAD, if you weren't able to utilize Apex VAD, you're saying, okay, up close, couple down closes, we've got some wicks here. Man, look at how long these bars are taking. We're in chop. Oh, look, it's starting to break out of chop. Let me get in right there and sell to go short, because this bar was way up here and closed down. This one closed down. It broke the chop box. Let's go. That's what's called a fake breakout. Okay? How do we know not to take this trade south, not to take this trade short? How do we not get caught in fake breakouts? Any of you guys that are chop traders, that is the biggest problem with chop trading, chop breakout trading, is all of the fake outs. You get caught in the fake outs, right? Oh, look, it's starting to break out of chop and I went that direction and just came right back and got me. Well, what is VAD telling you right there? That short bar broke out of the chop box with what? With less volume than the last time there was a push down. See this push down of 2 bars? This was the VAD level. This was the accumulated VAD level. The next time it pushed 2 bars down and even broke out of the chop box a little bit, it didn't even break out with as much volume as before. So are we going to take that? No. VAD tells us when to go. The bar broke a bit under the chop box with less VAD showing us it was not breaking through to the short side at this time. VAD tells us don't take that to the short side right now. This makes it a fake break. All right, right here. Now, as the price was breaking long, okay, out of the chop box, all right, and sometimes, not all the time, and sometimes you'll see that fake break going the other direction, and then when it starts to go the other direction, that's the direction it's going to go. Not always, but you get a good, that can help you sometimes of, okay, we had a fake that way, maybe it's going to go the other way, right? But as the price was breaking long to the upside, the VAD did not give us a clear signal, okay? So VAD did do one thing that we wanted to. As these bars are going up and price is going up, VAD is starting to build. You see that? That it's slowly getting bigger. And that's one thing we want, is a slow progression of VAD building up. We like that. We don't want a quick burst. That's just a fake out. We want that slow build up of VAD. But when it broke out of the chop box here, even though we avoided the fake, VAD is building. When it broke out, VAD wasn't quite exceeding this VAD, because this was the last up close bar here, right? And we had that much VAD volume. Well, right here as it's breaking out, it wasn't quite clearly exceeding the last VAD. Okay, so in this particular situation, normally we want to see VAD steadily growing, and that when it breaks out and when we take that trade, VAD is bigger than it was previous. Okay, that's how we normally want it to be. But in this case, everything else lined up except that one thing. Okay, now this is a situation where, as you learn order prints a little better, if there's a situation where VAD is not completely clear, order prints can actually be used to help. So real quick, let me just give you another example here. Take a look at this screenshot here. Okay, and let's enlarge this. What do we have here? The market's pushing down, okay, and we've got chop, right? It's clearly chop. Everybody can see that that's chop, correct? So price dipped under this 0.5 deviation, and we're at the low, and we've got this power line, and what do we have right here? We have a cluster in the middle of the chop, because what we want is for it to be a power play. The market can push down, 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 and this last bar right here can have a cluster in it, which shows a lot of volume, some hesitation. We're building inventory, right? And if this bar here has a cluster, these may not, right? But as long as we saw that cluster right there, of accumulation and more accumulation of orders, and then it breaks out, then okay. Or the price can come down and we want to cluster inside the chop box, okay, to show that it's not just chopping around, it's chopping around, there's a lot of volume building ready for a breakout, right? Or maybe there's no cluster here at the bar before the chop. Maybe there's no cluster in the chop box, but maybe as the price is breaking out, like even say like on a bar like this that pulls back, there's a cluster here showing, all right, we got momentum, let's go. You know what I mean? But take a look here. So we've got our level, we've got our chop, we've got our cluster, and what happens right here? So we've got VAD coming up and down and up and down, and then here we're starting to go up, right? We're starting to go up. And as it gets up here to the top of the chop box, it does one more pull back into the box, and then it goes on up and closes to break out. And what do we have here? We've got VAD, a little more VAD, a little more VAD, a little more, a little more. We've got VAD building, right? See that? We've got VAD building. Okay. Back here, we had VAD building, right? Little VAD, bigger VAD, bigger VAD. We had it slowly building like we like, but it didn't break the box. Okay. Here, it's slowly building like we want, not a big quick burst. It's slowly building. And what happens right here after it breaks out? That VAD gradually increases, and then it exceeds this VAD when it breaks out. Everybody see that? That's what we normally want to see. VAD gradually building, and then when it breaks out, VAD is greater than the last time. Because what you have is you have a chop box here. So you have an attempt to push down and it can't. Up and it can't. Down and it can't. Up and it can't. Down and it can't. What we want to see for a breakout is that the volume that's accumulated breaking out of the box is bigger than all of these attempted volumes that same direction. That makes sense? Okay. And we would enter 1 to 3 ticks above that, after we had the confirmation of the breakout, the confirmation of the VAD exceeding, we'd enter 1 to 3 ticks above that, put our stop 20 ticks below, and follow it on. And again, there's another video towards the end here about trailing those stops. And again, if you want to take one of these trades without a cluster, I don't recommend that necessarily without some type of cluster in here. But if you've got everything else setting up, you can go ahead and take that, as a scalp trade and protect it tight. So that's what we normally want to see: slowly building VAD and exceeding VAD. But there can be some cases, like in this one here, where everything else lines up, VAD's increasing slowly, but it's not exceeding. That's where an order prints can help you out a little bit. So, all 4 components necessary plus an OP bonus. So what do we see on order prints here? In the chop box, we actually have 1, 2, 3 clusters. All right, so we like that, right? To where it's not just random chop or just one random cluster here or there. We got 3 clusters in a row. So we like that a lot, because for one, that's telling us, hey, there's a lot of volume building here, right? Like, it's filling up. It's kind of like, imagine this box as your gas tank on your car. And man, it's filling up, and it's filling up big, ready for a what? For a long journey, right? So when you see a cluster in there, especially when you see more than one, but it's like, hey, we're filling up, right? Or it's like when your cell phone is charging, right? And the bar is coming up and down because it's charging, it's charging, it's charging. And then when you get fully charged, it's like, boom, 100% full, let's roll. Okay? It's, it's that swimmer, up against the side of the pool there, just, rocking back and forth, ready just to push off from the side of the pool. Okay? But, so you got your 3 clusters. All right? Notice these arrows. What do we have? We have huge net volume. All right, again, you can go through and watch the full order prints course, but look at this down close bar, and look at this down close bar, right? Like, look right here, like 25, 62, right, for net volume. And then boom, 627, boom, 303, trying to push down, right? There was huge net volume in the sell direction. Then look at this up close bar, only had 58 compared to 627, 303, 58. Then look what comes in, push down hard, 293, another push down hard, 186. Do you see this? Even though there were so many more sell contracts, there was so much pressure to the downside, they were trying to break out to the downside, they couldn't do it. Does that make sense? 627, 303, 293, 186. This little 58 bar and 90 bar stopped it. Like, it didn't want to go down. This is a huge sign that it's going to break to the long side, because with these multiple attempts, with these big pressures, with clusters, with double acceleration, everything trying to push that down, it can't do it. Do you see that? Okay, am I the only one seeing that? Do you have to, turn your head to the side? And I don't know, it's there. Like, you see it? And so in this situation, that gives us a pretty good heads up that, man, it doesn't want to go down. So when it starts to go up and starts to go up and it starts to go up and it's starting to break out of that chop box, we can kind of have an expectation of that's what it was going to do. And everything else lines up, right? Your levels, your chop. Now, VAD is doing what we want it to do by slowly building. Okay, but it's just not quite exceeding right here at this breakout. All right, something else for another time to look into is what we call our expected volume indicator down here. All right, this is not part of the power play rules, but just another helpful indicator you can learn down the road. You see that exceeding volume is building. You see that like a stair step. All right. So even though VAD's not completely lining up with the exceeding aspect here, all these details here really help us to see that the market's breaking out to the long side. We can also see in these up close bars here, what do you see? You see yellow, yellow on the sell side, yellow on the sell side, yellow on the sell side, yellow. What are those? Trapped orders on the sell side, because people still trying to push it down, and they're selling, wanting it to go down, but the market's just going up against them. Selling, wanting to go down, market's going up. Selling, market's going up, right? What are these blues right here? Leading volume, okay? Just another part of order prints that kind of helps give us a perspective of that. All right, so does that make sense? There's an example of coil chop. There's an example of tight chop. There's a couple examples of exactly what we were looking for with VAD. And then an example of when VAD's not perfectly lining up, how we can also use the Apex order prints to help give us an idea of what's going on inside the bars and what's really going on inside that chop box to help give us an idea of direction. Okay, so it's very important to keep an eye on that and to keep an eye on order prints, and it's very, very important to really keep an eye and learn to understand those fake breakouts. Okay, just like we talked about here, don't get fooled into drawing your chop box and looking for a little breakout and take it. You have to look at what's going on with VAD and with order prints too. But right here, VAD just made it clear. There really wasn't much to think about. VAD made it pretty obvious for you that it's not going that way. I don't want to break out a chop with less VAD, right? Right here it was building, just hadn't quite exceeded, but it wasn't less. But I definitely don't want to take a breakout on less. So just as always, keep an eye out for coil chop and tight chop. You get your cluster alert, you immediately just, what happens right here? That's a cluster, right? That yellow is a cluster. I got 3 charts up, I get a cluster alert. What am I doing? I'm watching the market to see what's going on. Hey, this is choppy. This is clearly choppy market, right? I'm watching this one. I get a cluster. I get a cluster. I get a cluster. Okay, let me look at this market and figure out, man, ultimate power play is so confusing. Is it? Cluster, cluster, cluster. Chop, chop. What do? I analyze the market. What's the market condition? Even if this is your second day in the trading world and all you've ever done is listen to my videos, is that a super trending market right here or right here? Pretty easy answer. It's not. Is this a wide range bound market with the market coming up and down? No, it's not. If it was a wider kind of somewhat trending market, we'd look at a power play 1 or 2. If it was a super trending market, we'd look at power play number 3. But this is clearly chop. How many different, out of the 4, how many different power play setups apply to chop? Only 1. It's not that hard, right? It's not that hard. Okay, it's choppy. I'm only looking at power play setup number 4. I know how that works. I know what the rules are. What do I want? Chop. Great. Are we around a level? Yes. Great. Do we have our clusters? Yes. Yes. Great. We got VAD telling us right here what's going on? Yes. Great. I'm taking the trade, right? And what am I doing? I'm entering 1 to 3 ticks above the high of the chop box, 20 tick stop. Same here, right? We're looking for the market condition and then to follow the rules and verify that they're in place. Okay, so one last quick thing. What do we mean right here? Like some people say this is confusing me. So the entry for the power play is 1 to 3 ticks above the high of the chop box to go long. Or if a major level is just a few ticks away above the chop box, place your order 1 to 3 ticks above the level. What? What are you talking about? Well, let's just see if I can find you a random example here. Okay, right here. Let's just say, for example, that this was a setup, okay? And I will have to look and see, if it is or not. But the market's coming up, then it came down, and then we started to chop here, right? So let's just say we had a chop box drawn right here, okay? Or let's say like we're watching the market live, and right now live, like let's say we couldn't see all of this, right? Let's say this was live, okay? And what we're doing is we're watching the market, and right now this is where our chop box is, right? Well, what do we have? Well, we've got chop, right here we're at a red ice level, and we've definitely got chop. Let's say there was a cluster in there, and all right, the market is kind of close right here to breaking out of the chop box, isn't it? See that? And look at the VAD volume on that bar right there. It's already exceeding this last VAD volume, isn't it? Ooh, okay. So what if, so normally I would place my order if I'm seeing VAD building, if everything's, going correct, like right here. Market's coming down, 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 and we see VAD is starting to build slowly, just like we like, right? And this down volume here is exceeding this down volume. So what if we placed our order 1 tick below the chop box? Well, then the market came up, then the market came down, and then look what happens. Boom. Like the market did break out 1 to 3 ticks under the chop box, didn't it? Right? VAD's building. But what do we have right here? Like in the middle here we have red ice, but what is this level right here? See it? 0.5, half deviation level. So even though the market is breaking out of the chop box with a lot of things lining up, when it hits that strong level, what could it do? It could break through and go, right? So, or it could bounce. So this is what we mean is when your chop box is just a few ticks away from a level, don't put your order 1 to 3 ticks outside of the chop box. Put your order 1 to 3 ticks below the level. So your order's sitting there waiting. So that way if it does break out of the box, it hits the level, and it does break the level and keep going, then your order will get picked up, right? But what you don't want to happen is to get in right outside the chop box, and then the market hit that level and do what? Boom. Uh-oh. Gotcha. Where are we going? Exactly. You see that? So normally your order is placed 1 to 3 ticks outside the chop box. But if there's a strong level just outside of that box, put your order on the other side of the level. That way it picks it up if the market goes on down. Because you don't want to get caught in that exact situation right there. That was technically a little fake breakout right to the level. And then what did it do? Boom, it reversed. And where did it go? And look, where was the market at? When did it break the high of the chop box? Right in here, right? And what was VAD doing? Slowly building, and exceeding the other long VADs going that way. You see it, guys? Like, does this all come together here? Do you see how powerful VAD is and order prints is, and how powerful it is to get in on the other side of those levels if it's just right outside? Okay, so pay attention to those things, check out those rules. That is the number 4 power play trade setup.